Okay. Well, I frame this like a debate, but I obviously, you know me, like this isn't going to be really a
Yeah.
debate. This is going to be like playing both sides of the issue and like trying to find some sort of a solution. I've kind of done a little bit of research on both points. I've thought about it a lot here. I kind of want to hear your point of view first. Like, if you were to like sum your thoughts and like what you think about the role queue argument, against, for, why not.
So
I want
go
to hear
ahead.
your thoughts first. And I've got your,
So
I've got your, you popping off in Black Panther playing in the background too.
okay,
So
okay, cool. So just let's make some distinctions first and foremost. So are you talking role lock or role queue?
well,
Like
see,
two,
this is why I want you here. Let's talk about both. Let's talk
yeah.
about why you're for one or against the other or whatever. You tell me.
I listen. I am totally open to a form of role queue being experimented with. I think it would be an incredibly waste. It would be a big waste and a wasted opportunity to experiment to go straight to role lock. Um, for a couple of reasons. One,
Can you distinguish between the
sure,
two?
sure. So role lock means no matter what, it's 2-2-2. It's just like Overwatch,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where
yeah, yeah.
you are locked into the role that you queue. But a role queue would look something like, okay, you can say your preferences for what you would like to queue or what you're willing to play. For example, if it was role queue, I could say, all right, I'm down. I could play DPS or support this game. I'm willing to do either one. So I would queue up and I would say, okay, I could play Mantis or Cloak and Dagger, or I'll play Panther,
Right.
Hela, whatever this is. And I'll queue for those roles, and maybe you're locked to the roles that you queue.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but you still have the freedom to swap should you need to or choose to. Queue times will probably be a lot lower as well. You don't run into the same queue time issue. And those are the two big differences I would say between role lock and role queue. Overwatch went straight into role lock, which was that a mistake? Who am I to say? But I think it would be a wasted opportunity to try to tackle one creativity. I think Marvel Rivals is a much more wacky game than Overwatch is. It's definitely
Agreed.
like anybody who tries to say it's as balanced as Overwatch is crazy. Their whole point is that nothing is balanced in the game. Nothing.
Right.
Like literally, like everything is insane, and that's a part of the draw that they have. I think open queue is. I want to say it's better for casuals because ultimately they just want to get in and out of games.
Yep.
And I think that this game is going to be on the casual side compared like the Marvel Rivals esports will not be as big as Overwatch esports. Mostly because like I think FPS esports in general, unless it's like a MOBA of some kind, just they're just more competitive in the hero shooter genre than a third person game.
Visual
And that kind
clutter
of just is
too,
what it is.
right?
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
unfriendly to esports.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I would like to see the game stay in open queue, maybe with some form of preferred role queue, but I would not go to role lock. I kind of rambled for a minute there. I'll toss it back to
No, I
you.
mean that's why I wanted you here, right? So from a casual perspective, why do you think role lock is harmful? Talk to me about that.
I think it limits hero identity to a degree,
Sure.
where it's why people are logging on to Marvel Rivals. Like, what's the reason why? I think the big thing is they want to play Marvel characters. Like,
Yeah.
it's the Marvel heroes and the identity and all that stuff. And I talked about that quite a bit before the game came out. I found it very funny that there were a lot of people like in my community and like who were just Overwatch players, right? Who were like, oh, it's just it's bad. I'm like, guys, like the hero identity in this game is solid. That's why I think it's gonna do well. Like when you're playing Black Panther, like the voice lines, everything, they nailed that. Like they absolutely
Yep.
nailed it. And the third person actually kind of helps them, which is why I'm glad it wasn't a first person. Like I really disagree with the old Blizzard president's take. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter.
Yeah,
I laughed so hard at that. I was like, listen, man, like this is
It was
either the
pretty
best
silly.
bait tweet of all time. Because it was the analogy that he made where he was like, Black Widow is a carbon copy of Widowmaker. I'm like,
Yeah.
do you
it
read
was
comics?
cornball.
Like, what?
It was cornball. Yeah, it was pretty cornball. Yeah.
Very funny. But you want to have as much hero identity as possible, and really they just want to get into games fast. And you can implement some sort of preferred role queue without restricting players and keeping the queue times up. Like a lot of casual players, like my buddies, I have a group chat with a couple of my guys who like play in the MLB, and Kyle loves Jeff the Shark. Tyler likes to try all these different characters, Star-Lord and all this stuff. And they're willing to play different stuff. And they're casual players. Like they casually played
Right.
Overwatch, they casually played this too. Like they're willing to like flex around a little bit if it's something that they're comfortable doing. And if there's a way that you can select it and find that middle ground while keeping queue times low, That's probably the best case scenario, and I think Marvel being a more casual game, it's probably better they stay in that direction.
Yeah,
Just
it
my
makes
opinion,
sense.
though.
That was really my first point is like really we need to find out what Marvel's wants to be. Like where does this identity want to stay? You know, Overwatch has always tried to take itself more seriously. Whether it succeeded at executing that perfectly or not, I don't know. But like it's definitely tried to take itself more seriously.
No, I would say they have. I would say they have.
And Marvel's is at least the impression is that, especially using the IP that it have, it's big, it's flashy, it's silly. Like you said, the third person view really immerses you. Like I'm watching a comic book, you know, like I'm getting out there and it's colorful and it's fun and it's great at doing those things. But I think answering that question is like, what do you want to be, and then having your game reflect that, not just from a balance standpoint. But then I guess that kind of begs the question, and this is where I have to kind of dig more into the role queue or whatever. It's like, okay, so then that's the case there, but what is the better casual experience then? Is it the more flexibility? Is it the more silliness? Because at the same time, from the experience of the players that I worked with in Overwatch, this is Overwatch, it's not Marvel Rivals. But prior to Roll-Lock, low mid-rank games had a lot worse issues with open queue than higher rank games. And you saw my tweet, right? We talked about this, where it's like higher rank players generally, they understand the limitations of their comp, they understand when, and they're more willing to flex.
They're playing to win.
They're playing to win, right? But spending a lot of time in Plat and Gold myself and coaching a lot of players at that time, like it was a big problem, right? So it's like, what is the better? If we're making some assumptions, Marvel Rivals wants to take it somewhere casual. Okay, what is the better casual experience then? You know what I'm saying?
I would say I think getting in games, to be honest. I think just getting people
so you're saying
in
the
the
queue
game,
like kills the casual fun side of it.
It just makes the barrier to entry like much more difficult.
Yeah.
And if it's a casual game where people are just getting on to mess around, I think there's other ways that you can actually mitigate the open queue issues. So let's break down the open queue issues first. Like,
please.
Get into the specifics. It's like a couple of mine off the top of my head. No support players. So you have like one or no healers. I think that's the most aggressive one in this genre. Because if you don't have healing, like supports are the strongest role in this genre. Not historically, like even it's like Marvel's really proven that too. It's like in Overwatch or Marvel. So there are a couple ways.
The distinction between DPS and tank is also a lot more blurry, right? I mean, obviously health pools are crazy, but like at DPS can apply. What is a tank designed to do? It's designed to bait attention. Can a DPS do that too? Yeah, but it can't heal. Right, you can't heal. Like nothing can take the place of healing in this game.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And it's so valuable too because it's how the fights last and it's how like ult economy gets started. So here's what you could do immediately, right, to offset it. You add the global regen passive. So in the games where you have 5 DPS or 4 DPS, 1 tank and 1 healer, like there is an option for DPS to like not peek and actually heal on angles. Now that will change game balance a little bit. I think that's something that you could do. Let's go to the flip side of that, the other end. When you start to get up to the higher ranks, which like it's already happening now, the triple support comps and the sustain is so unbelievably game-breaking and hard to balance around in the open queue format as well. When you're a competitive player, even whether you're casual or competitive, like there's been games, especially with the level of sustain in this game right now, with like supports insta-healing themselves, you know, where they go triple support. I'm just like, there's literally nothing I can do here. Like, this is just over. Like, there's no way, like, I can't pierce through the damage. You can do things like, hey, if you pick 3 supports, you know, healing is cut by 20% on each character. Something like that. Like, there's a lot of out-of-the-box things that I'd like to see Marvel try as a wacky game to tackle these problems than just going straight to roll-lock. I just think that'd be such a mistake. I'd like to see them experiment. I think I'm a science guy, too, so I'm biased.
I am, too, and I think it's fun as well, and I think there's opportunity to experiment. I will say one thing that is saving Marvel Rivals in a weird way is there's 2 things I find that why GOATS hasn't been instantly hard meta. One, that I don't find as much immediate AoE brainless sustain. There's the Brig card, right? There's no Brig enabler right here. There's a lot of single target sustain, which is broken, but not as much AoE sustain and utility. And I find the other thing as well is, I don't know if you've noticed this too, but there aren't really any off tanks as much and Marvel Rivals. I know people are like, oh, Penny Parker, but what I mean by off tank, I mean there's no real enabler. Like there's no bubble, there's no Matrix, there's no no D.Va, there's no Zarya, right?
They just get shot.
Right. All they are main tanks. They're all initiators, with the exception of Penny, who's kind of more of the Sigma hold space, right? But they're all initiators, so like that having more initiators isn't always necessarily a good thing. So I don't know that they're going to have triple support or Ghost will be as strong in Marvel Rivals. But yeah, I definitely agree that healing is still strong. Healing is still really difficult to play versus. Yeah, someone in chat says Magneto at least has bubbles, but they're on a much longer cooldown as well. Yeah. And so yeah, I think that there's like some potential there, but yeah, I agree. Like some out of the box solutions would be interesting. My thing is, it's like, what is the balance here? And I don't think there's a clear answer here of like, what is more important? A significantly shorter queue time with a little bit more flexibility versus the quality of your game with the way the game is supposed to be played. Like, how is the game supposed to be played? I feel like with Marvel Rivals, and this is my opinion, that the game is supposed to have an initiator tank and is supposed to have some form of healing. And if you don't have at least one of those boxes checked, it just doesn't feel like the game matters.
Especially on the close quarter, tight lane.
Yes,
map
exactly. See, this is why I will be an advocate of roll lock for Overwatch 1 back in 2 CP, because you and I both remember that was one situation when it wasn't just a support. You couldn't break that choke without a tank. You just couldn't, right? Now Marvel Rivals, I'm not as familiar with as many of the maps. I do feel like there are a lot of chokes, but like that felt like necessary at the time. I don't know if it's necessary anymore, and I don't know if Marvel Rivals. Would you say that it's still choky enough to demand one?
On some of the maps, yes, 100%. I think there's two downsides to Marvel. I would say right now, things that I think they could improve on a lot. One is map design, and two is just the sustain. I think if they can iron those out. They the maps aren't bad. Like, they're not terrible, unplayable, horrible. Yes. But if you don't have a tank on some of them, like the convoy map, there's a tight choke, and like the third point on that convoy map on you're still oh, Jesus Christ! I stuck with Overwatch maps, man. They think I can pronounce some Asgardian like Jesus.
I know what you're talking about. It's just a brutal choke. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And it's hard. And it's like you'll be winning the fight too. And here's like, I'll just be blunt with you right now about the state of Marvel Rivals and where I'd rate it. Like, this game is great. I have more fun playing it than Overwatch 2, but I don't think it's better than peak Overwatch 1. I think it's close, but I think there's too many outlying. Like, Overwatch 1 from optimization. Oh, sorry. The other thing I missed was optimization, but oh well. I'm sure everybody felt
I feel like that one goes without saying, but that one does. To be fair to Overwatch, has always been probably the best thing that they've ever.
Oh
done.
yeah. And the optimization of the game too of Overwatch, so many people don't talk about. Like it spoiled every FPS player with having the best visuals. It's easy to see enemies. Like, I tried to go play Warzone after like playing a lot of Overwatch, and I couldn't see anybody. I was like, I was just dying in bushes. I was like, dude, I didn't even think to look there because the red outlines just go so far.
Yeah.
But that is something that, again, I think you can do with a roll queue. Like, I'm not like I'm with that. Yeah. I'm totally fine for a roll queue. I'm adamantly against a roll lock. I think there's a lot of ways that they can attempt to fix it, and if they can't, we can have another discussion. But I think they've already come out and said that they're not going to do it as of right now. But I guess that could change. Yeah.
Wasn't there some discussion about like the compressing the amount of team ups that they would be able to do if they did a roll lock immediately? Like, I can't remember. Somebody I swear I remember reading that somewhere where like, oh, we don't want to do roll lock because of something to do with the team up thing, which like reduces our flexibility with that. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe someone can correct me on that. But yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think what my standpoint is however this is implemented, and this is like where a moment of ignorance for me. Like, I don't know exactly how you'd implement it, but I'm a max 3 guy. I want a DPS, I want a tank, I want a support. I think there's a lot of compositions that could function and function quite well. We had this discussion on Twitter, right? One tank. On some maps, it's quite good. I'm looking at you playing Yggdrasil right now, first point. Maybe not third point, right? But first point, you could definitely get away with 3 DPS. There's a lot of space for flankers and snipers.
Angles too.
All sorts of angles, right? And the more space, the more DPS can function, right? And I think, honestly, I wouldn't love 2 supports. I think that's much worse than 2 tanks, or having only 1 support. But I think that you could probably get away with 1 support, and there's some flexibility in there. To me, it's like, what's the balance between like expression and creativity and queue times, like you said, from a casual perspective, versus quality of gameplay? And I feel like there has to be like a legitimate balance in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's a Goldilocks zone. It's not like we need to make 2 + 2 = 4 here. It's like,
exactly.
hey, it's like, hey, we need to get a number between 4 and 20. Right.
And not to be like all psychology, but like how much do we want to avoid that worst case scenario? Because I was complaining to chat about like how I almost quit Overwatch back in 2017 because lack of role lock meant that I was literally never able to play Genji, because I was a silver Genji at the time. I was brand new to first person shooters. I really loved Genji. I wanted to play Genji, and we always had like 60% of my games had 3 or more DPS. And so I quit on that, and I almost quit the game, and I was like, tank doesn't look that fun. I ended up giving it a shot, and I didn't even have fun at the beginning. It took me a while to kind of get used to it. But like, I wonder how many players are going to try this game, get 0 heals, right, and then be like, oh, this game is trash, and not even give it a fair shot, So, I don't know if there's an objective answer there. And I think the key thing that you said there is, I think that the developers, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to stick with this, just don't rush anything, I think, like you said, role queue, maybe max 3. This game doesn't need role lock right now.
Yeah, no, it definitely does not need role lock. And honestly, like, I don't know if Overwatch needs role lock. Like, it's interesting because
less so now. Certainly less so with the map design as it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the maps have improved so much.
And the heal passive, like you were talking about.
The heal passive, I think, was the only good thing about season 9, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I hate the health pools. There wasn't a lot of ammo compensation. Yeah, break points. Really, the thing that people aren't talking about is the ammo consumption, right? Where like as a DPS, you get somebody to 1 HP, and you like most of the DPS did not have mag size increases, right? So you're kind of sitting there and whatever. That's beside the point.
True. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, we'll have another conversation about that one day.
Yeah, probably. But no, I think don't rush it. I forget the entry point of that question that was asked. I suppose
it was just more about like. Don't rush it. Do we start with role queue? Do we start with max 3?
I would start with the global regen passive, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That's where I would start. Yeah. I think that's the easiest thing to start without like any big systems or big development time. Hey, like let's let players after 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds, maybe start like to have global regen. I will say I don't think that should come over like certain heroes. Like I think Psylocke needs some changes. She's certainly not a 5-star, but she's incredibly powerful to her stealth and like giving her a detection radius, something like that. I think nerfing sustain in general in the game is really, really important right now. It's like you said, there weren't any big enablers like Brig. I hate to break it to you, there is one, and his name is Adam Warlock. Man, his shift is. Have you seen what his shift does? The soul.
No, it's damage. No, it's damage spread, right? I think.
Yeah, it links everyone's soul and adds regen, and so essentially what it's doing is like you literally on a DPS, if there's like 3 or 4 of them clumped up, there's like nothing you could do to kill them all. Like the whole team survives an Iron Man ult. Like that like I think Adam Warlock, and then if you kill him, he can just resurrect himself and then res his whole team. So it's it's a little too good in my opinion. So they do need to change that. Like I think those outliers, so it's like sustainabilities. The problem is, it's like, what do they want the game to do? Like, and I know you talked about this a bit, but again, my rank is high, but I see a lot of strategists, and like I think the way that supports are designed in this game, like, I don't think you have to rework any of the heroes. I think it's a lot of number tweaks. Like Cloak and Dagger are really cool. Like characters are super cool. Like Loki's awesome and fun. Like Mantis and Luna are super approachable. Luna's busted. Luna, I don't know. I'm not sure which one's better, Mantis or Luna. I think Luna might have been wrong. I think Luna might be a little bit better. 12-second ult, dude. 12-second trank.
Yep.
Like, crazy.
Yep. No, I agree. I think I'm still. I made a rant the other day about some of the tank design. Right. I feel like a lot of the tanks are lacking or repetitive.
True. I agree.
But I feel like, especially if they were to continue to release more tanks and more supports with creative kits and so on, I don't think that solves the problem. I still think that DPS is always going to be the most picked. But that plus, like you said, the global regen passive plus a lot. Like there's a lot of little things they could do while we're kind of feeling things out, solving things. And then inevitably, as this game gets solved 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year, we consider role queue. And really, maybe that's where the game sits.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's just where it sits. Allow it to be more casual, allow it to be more creative, allow it to be more flexible. Obviously, like I've got Gavin Winter in here, and he's like, you know, there's definitely some questions about like, you know, your rank versus the matchmaking of having a role lock versus having people that are more willing to flex. It gets a little bit more complicated. But again, like probably not as big of a deal. And because it's 6v6, probably at least on paper, not as one-sided matches either. So that's may not be as big of a
I've
deal.
had a couple. I think we'll see. Like I've had a couple where like you just can't get a kill because they run a sustained comp.
Yeah,
I've had a couple.
fair.
I'm just like, I don't even know how I can get
Fair.
through Magneto Strange. Which, by the way,
I feel
double
like it's a
shield.
skill check. I feel like it's skill check. You know what it is? It's in a bad way. As in, like, the thing that I think I was talking to you about this. I feel like the thing that's keeping this game like really like relevant is that until you have really good supports, you can just go Iron Fist and kill people. You can
100%.
just go Psylocke and just kill people, and you couldn't do that in Overwatch. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing because that means maybe the skill
It's
floor
more
of some of
extremes.
the skill
It's more
floor.
extremes.
I find the dive characters in Marvel Rivals to be way easier than the Overwatch ones. But then also the support sustain is in a way is a little bit harder to pick up. But once you get it, like you're full barring everything.
Depends on the character. Like for example, Lunasto's orb, like she's just multi-healing. Like so, like
that's right. Because you heal one and then you heal the other target.
Whoever has your orb, whoever has orb gets healed whenever you heal your tank. So you put the orb on your flanker and you just pop your tank, and their flanker's healing too.
Right.
And for Mantis, she can have her like break packs on everybody with damage boost and instantly regenerate them. So like, I think it's not as noticeable off the rip, but. I don't know. Like I think Marvel Rivals, it's more extreme in every way.
Agreed.
And those extremities are both good and bad. So wait and see.
It's hard because it's really hard to know like what is objectively like the extreme that it gets the pass and what doesn't get the pass. I feel like the extremes that are fun, at least one person, probably should get the pass. You know, like that hero is silly, but it's fun. We'll leave it. This isn't fun for anybody involved.
Jeff is an example, I think. With his ult.
Exactly. Jeff is total nonsense, and those clips are going to get really old really fast. But at least it's fun for somebody. You know, at least it's funny. You know what I'm saying? And so
that's what they lean into too. That I think that's, and like at the same time, that's why I think it should stay that way, because like it's not like it can't be Overwatch, and this is why I like this game so much. I talked about it so much, and as for as much shit as I give Overwatch, you know, I feel like I've always said this and been honest about it. It's you know, like
you have higher expectations.
You have higher expectations. I suppose. At this point, I'm kind of indifferent aside from raid boss tanks, like because at this point, like I'm kind of like, all right, it would, you know, my hero identities would still be there. Otherwise, I'm just kind of chilling to play the heroes, but that's kind of what I've learned as the years have gone on. It's like, listen, I'm here to play the characters. So these wacky characters come in, but Overwatch just did competitive better. It did like game engine better, like optimization better. Like it's by far the best in the genre. So if you try to go head to head with them and play their game and play by their rules, you're gonna lose. I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's Valorant. I don't care if it's Gundam. Like there's not a game out there that's better at like, you know, the art style, the immersiveness of the world, the game engine, capture. Even the systems have gotten so much better in Overwatch too, in my opinion. Like, you know, I know a lot of people gave crap. They're like, "Oh, features got removed," and I hear that, but you know, like the drives or like some of the other stuff they've been doing in competitive, like that's all like, you know, it's unmatched. You're not going to beat them in that field. So how do you beat them? You get Marvel's IP, and I don't even want to say beat them because it's a different game. Like my pred for this from the beginning was, listen, this is not going to kill Overwatch. It's going to be healthy competition, so players have options. I think it'll kill Paladins. Because it's way more like Paladins. Look at that angle on that Moon Knight. You like that I put on the height?
That is actually disgusting. I didn't know you could do that vertically like that or on the wall.
Yeah, it's so good because it's a spear. So like that's kind of stuff that you know I love doing. But you know, it's not a head to head, and I think they should lean into that more heavily. Even though that can be infuriating for players, but also fun when you get it to go your way. I think it's a little too extreme right now. I think they should have a little bit of a regression to the mean on both sides, but maybe they choose to do the opposite. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think it's just going to be really curious to see how they evolve, because it's like, I think it's like, you know, Overwatch walked. So in theory, this game should run in some aspects, right? Like from from a competitive standpoint, from a design standpoint, what people sustain, right, is a big thing, right? Like, so it's really going to have to wait and see exactly what they do with it. You know, I have high expectations for the game. I think they've done a really good job with a lot of things. I'm just hoping that they continue to execute. Because I think I had some rant about this with tank design. It's like we like, if you're an Overwatch fan or you're a Marvel Rivals fan, you want this game to succeed. Like you want this game to do well. There's so much to. It's not just from a competition standpoint, which is
both
true.
Get good features. Both will get, like, if one group game does something right,
Yes.
then both games can implement it. And the one narrative I want to shoot down with you right now that I think you'll agree with me in, if I ever see anybody say, "Oh, they're copying this game," who cares?
No.
Is it good or not? If it's good, celebrate it. If
Well,
it's bad, be mad.
There's no original thought, right? Like everything is an evolution of something like this. I mean, this is something I studied even in a lot in psychology. Was like a lot of like music and art is always like a derivative of an inspiration from something else, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like you'd look at like Overwatch as a clone of TF2, which was a clone of I don't know. I'm not that old. Okay?
Yeah, so, some who
like,
knows?
There are unique ideas, but usually it's starting from A to get to B and to B to get to C. So you have a starting standpoint that gets to somewhere. So I agree with you. Like, oh, they copied over. Who cares? Who cares? Overwatch came up with a good idea and somebody came up and tried something totally different. Let people innovate, and there should be credit done for innovation. Like, you look at your favorite like sports player. Imagine like gatekeeping like an NFL because they didn't innovate it. Well, they did it better, so screw off. You know what I'm saying? Like they get credit for that. So yeah. Anyway,
I hear you on that.
That's it. I think the execution is just as important as the innovation. To be honest, that's the way I look at
For
it.
sure, for sure. And I will say, like, I do think like this game absolutely built on what Overwatch was. They said,
Absolutely.
okay, what parts of Overwatch did we like? And
Absolutely.
it was like the cool, unique heroes, the crazy abilities compared to like if you compare what Overwatch 1 was at the time, like Genji was like the most popular character in any video game. Like people like nobody had ever
100%.
seen Genji in an FPS game. Like it was crazy. And like I think to give Marvel credit, I think what they did right and why this game succeeds is that every one of these heroes is like an evolution of an Overwatch character in an absolutely batshit insane way.
It's the hero fantasy thing too, because even the team up abilities, so they're just absurdly broken. Like some of them
they're not balanced at all.
But it's
Hell,
like
does 20% more damage from having a Loki on our team and insta reses him. And, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous, right? But the idea is, it's like, oh man, remember when I had Zarya's right? It's like, dude, that was so strong. That felt so good. Remember when I had a Loki as hell? It's like having those peaks of synergy, that was peaks of team play. Like they wanted, they're fishing for that, and I think they've done a good job with it. And obviously it comes with some baggage, right? But they like you said, they clearly as long as they have a vision and they stick with that vision and they adjust when and where necessary, then I think we're cooking. Because I think, like, obviously in hindsight, like, I think the real death, man, we're really getting off topic, but the real death of Overwatch was the fact that the vision was that it was only step one of a process to move towards PvE and so on. And so it never really got the development on the vision of what it was. And so whoever has Marvel Rivals probably already has the advantage in that regard, because they probably have a development team that actually has a long-term vision of where this game wants to go. So now we just have to kind of wait
and I have
see.
to wonder too. It's like I wonder how much say Disney actually has in this. Like it's. I would love to hear some kind of story as to like how did it end up, like, because of all the places for Disney to take it, they went to like a Chinese company. So like what was the? I'd love to hear that someday from the back end, because that would help give us some insight too. But
true.
I don't know. I think the bottom line is, everybody wins. The one thing I don't want to see is following the same path as Overwatch did, just because it'd be a waste. It'd just be a waste of it.
Exactly.
Because Overwatch benefits a lot. Like, Overwatch players have to understand this. Like, I see so many people beef. Like, honestly, it's kind of made me mad. Like, I can't go a day in my chat without people being like, "Are you gonna go back to Overwatch 2? Or like, this game cooks over." I'm like, guys, like, I'm enjoying playing this game. Like, I didn't even want to react to the patch notes, and then I had to react to the patch notes. Because every 5 minutes, somebody come in my chat saying, "Did he react to patch notes?"
It was a total nothing burger.
I am enjoying Moon Knight and Black Panther. I'm having fun, losing my mind at this game. Like, please just let me sink the hours in. Like, if you want to play Overwatch, have fun. If people want to play 6v6 or open queue or like the new game, then they can come play the new game. Doesn't matter. We actually have options now. Just enjoy what you want to play. Like, I'm sick of this. Like, I want to just play this game. That's it.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your takes. I think that like we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I always appreciate you, and good luck with your streaming, man. I appreciate you taking the time off, because this is I know you've got a busy schedule nowadays, so I appreciate you.
Dude, I have no life. It's so annoying, but oh well. It's all good, brother. You have a good one. Take care of yourself, all right?
You too, man. Cheers. See you, dude.
Peace.
Yeah. So that was Sam. I think. I mean, again, we're on the same page here. I think roll queue or having some sort of max 3 would be really, really good. That's kind of like what I want to go with in this game. I think having some sort of flexibility, and he rated a great point about queue times, which I think is 100% the case, and then leaning into like exactly what the type of game that Marvel Rivals wants to be, and then we'll see where we go from there.